This is Dominic Mantuano, Executive Director of the Connecticut Burns Care Foundation, and we are here today with our good friend Joe Matthews, who is also one of our counselors and makes all the children just as happy like all the others. And we're also joined by another counselor and board member, Joel Pleban. We're so glad to have you guys here today, and we're looking forward to this interview that we've been waiting for a while because, well, we're family, and family means you support family and you promote family and you bring in whatever you can to help family. And that is one of the lessons we do try to teach the kids, that you are part of a family and you help each other. And you don't just receive and turn around and walk away. You stop and say, what can I do for you? And part of that today then is Joe Matthews' new book, Cycling for a Cause, a cross-country adventure, a retired New York City firefighter, and all around, in my book, hero. And this book is a story literally about a man who took on his back a cause to cycle for and make it absolutely his mission to bring attention to, if I'm not mistaken, I'm going to show you this, make sure that I'm correct, that these are what you're doing this for and cycling for. Is that correct?
Correct. Originally, I biked across the country after Russia invaded Ukraine, and I was raising money for the World Central Kitchen. But when I wrote the book, there were 5 other foundations that were dear to my heart, so I decided on the book. The book proceeds are going to these 6 favorite charities of mine: St. Jude's Children's Hospital, the Tunnel to Towers Foundation, Shriners Hospital, the New York Firefighters Burn Care Foundation, Memorial Sloan Kettering, and also the World Central Kitchen. So those are the 6 charities I'm raising money for with the sale of the book.
Now that is awesome. I mean, and you know, Joe, it's people like you, individuals like you that are there for people who need help. And you're a big inspiration to somebody like me because every day people like Joel, you, all of our other counselors that allow me to be a better executive director day by day. So it's really, really great that you are doing this here today to show that these things can be done and will be done to help others. Joe, why don't you give us an overall view of what the book consists of? Like, what is the subject of the book? What is it focus on when people read it?
Okay, so originally back in December of 2021, I needed bilateral knee replacement surgery.
Wow.
It's a long story, but through my life, I wore out my knees, and I had to undergo bilateral knee surgery. I decided to do both at the same time, and instead of trying to schedule 2 separate surgeries, and it was more difficult recovery period than I would have thought. But anyway, I was home with a CPM machine. That's a machine that has your legs going like a circular motion, recovering, doing my rehab, and Russia invaded Ukraine. And I was kind of shaken to my core over that incident because I was also working on 9/11, and I'm one of the lucky guys who survived that day. And I just remember...
and God bless you.
Thank you, Dominic. I just remember the world all coming together to help us. So when Russia invaded Ukraine, I was just scratching my head wondering what it must feel like to be Ukrainian and have your country invaded. So although my knees were only, I guess, with me 2 months at the time, I had a lifelong dream of cycling across the country. So I came up with the bright idea to quit my job and cycle across America, raising money for the World Central Kitchen to feed Ukrainian refugees.
That couldn't be an easy decision to come to.
No,
quit your job and do it.
That's the way things roll in Joe's world. That's a term my daughter gave me, Joe's world. So I kind of do things without researching. Everybody thought I was crazy.
You're passionate.
Yeah, they were saying you just had your knees replaced. You're too old. You're too this. You're too that. And again, people were saying that I was crazy. It was too soon after surgery. I was too old. It's too dangerous. There were plenty of reasons not to do it. There weren't too many reasons to do it, except that I wanted to raise money for a good cause.
Well, I don't know about you, Joe, but I hear cycling across the country, and I'm like, yep, I won't even get on the bike. So for you to do that, I mean, it's something in my mind that is incredible, that you had that kind of fortitude to even think this is a good idea. I got an idea.
Well, I have to admit, I really had no idea what I was in for, which was a whole. It's in the book. I don't want to go too far into it, but it did.
Right, you want people to read about it.
It did take 3 attempts, and it wasn't an easy task. And but anyway, it was a successful story, and I raised $25,000 for the World Central Kitchen. It's actually around 26,000 and change now. My goal was 25,000, so I raised that money. And for the other foundations, it depends on how the sale of the book goes. Right now, I've raised roughly $500 for each of the 6 charities.
Wow.
So
that's amazing. All right, so I have a challenging question for you, and I've heard many interviews that you've been on. I'm going to admit to you, I read some of the book. I need to finish it, but I have a very challenging question for you that I don't think anybody's ever asked you. So okay, so you got the idea. You got this idea. You're going to cycle across the country, but you wake up the next morning. What's the next step, Joe? Like, what's the next step in a project like that?
Okay, so kind of like everything else that most of us do in life.
Mm-hmm.
I Google how do you bike across the country, and a couple of different things popped up, but one that caught my eye was the Adventures in Cycling Association of America. Okay, so that's an association that cycling. They give cycling all kinds of cycling information. So that's where I started. I reached out to them, and they sent me some information, a bunch of different routes on how to cycle across the country. And one particularly caught my eye because it left from San Francisco, heading east to New York. Now, it's easy to cycle across the country from west to east because the prevailing winds blow west to east. Okay,
really?
And as much as the Rocky Mountains and mountains are difficult to overcome, heavy winds, heavy headwinds are ask any cyclist.
Wow!
I learned the hard way about that. But anyway, so initially I was going to cycle from San Francisco to New York. So after getting involved with the Adventures in Cycling Association, I also realized that I needed a new bicycle.
I was about to say that was my next question. Go ahead.
So again, it was still during the pandemic, and supply issues were a factor. So to find a touring bike was not that easy.
Wow.
And again, through the Adventures in Cycling Association, also just Googling the best touring bike, Surly was the manufacturer that came up as one of the best touring bikes. Unfortunately, there were no dealerships within 3 hours where I live on Long Island that had a Surly bike that was my size. So I did what I should have done from the very beginning. Was I reached out to Brand Cycle in Wantor. Okay, I'm a big Brands fan. It's where my parents bought my first Stingray bike when I made my communion.
Stingray.
And then they also bought me my first Schwinn Varsity when I made my confirmation. So Brand Cycling has been around for over 60 years on Long Island. I reached out to them, and believe it or not, Dom, they had one touring bike that was the right size for me. It was a Fuji touring bike.
So it was meant to be.
I hung up the phone, and I drove right to Brands. I put a deposit down on the bike.
Well, that was my next question about the bike. You answered it. You went ahead and answered it. But, Joe... So, all right, now you just taught me something. I don't know about you, Joel, but I mean, now Joel's intelligent. Now, this guy, he knows a lot, but I have to tell you, I had no clue that west to east is a lot better. I should think about it because I fly all the time, and they always say coming west to east is easier than going east to west.
Yeah, I didn't know that either. So that's why I was leaving from San Francisco first to New York. Okay. And also my son Stephen, who lives in San Francisco, was going to do the first 5 or 6 days with me because I have 2 children, Stephen, my son, and Kelly, my daughter. were both concerned about me. Initially, I was going to do this trip solo, and they were concerned.
Well, what would have been now? Okay, we're talking logistics here. Do you have to let each state know? Did you have to get authorities involved?
Yeah. So
or did the word spread that you were doing this remarkable thing for other people?
So the word did spread, and I got to admit, it was Facebook and LinkedIn that I was first letting people know about it. And just like you said, logistics. So the next thing I got to do, when it was the Adventures in Cycling Association that gave me the list of things that I needed to bring along with me, because there are parts of the country where there's absolutely nothing for 80 miles between point A and point B.
Wow.
So originally I had camping, an old sleeping bag and an old tent, an old sleeping mat, things that I hadn't used in 20 years sitting in my shed. So I had to figure out how to pack that stuff all on my bicycle, that was another interesting thing. So I had to buy 2 sets of panniers for my bike. Panniers are like saddlebags.
Yeah.
A pair on the front wheel and a pair on the rear wheel.
And what about mechanics?
And so you had to have all the tools and stuff to fix things. And again, I really didn't know that much about bicycles prior to this. I mean, I knew certain things about bicycles, but repairing bicycles was not one of my fortes.
Wow. Maron Kesarich. That's amazing that you had to put all this together to get it to start, to go cross country.
Kind of on the fly.
On the fly. Joe, you're an amazing individual to have a mind that way that you believe you could do it.
Well, I wasn't really sure whether I could do it or not at that stage.
Sure. We'll see.
I believe the day that Russia invaded Ukraine was February 20th. I may be off a couple of days. And I was planning on leaving in May. I just figured like May was a good time to do it. So I had it was March, April, May. What was that? March? 3 months. I had 3 months to kind of try and figure out some of the logistics, and it was interesting. So I reached out to the Adventures in Cycling Association for the maps that you need, and then I was completely overwhelmed because I was doing it was two different routes I was doing. The Western Express from San Francisco to I believe it was Arkansas or Omaha, and then the transatlantic trail from there. And one trail had 30 maps and the other one had 50 maps. And I'm saying to myself, how am I going to read these maps? So of course, back to Brands I go, and I get this plastic container, waterproof container to put the maps in. And I put them on my bike, just like me, Dominic, and Joel are talking about. Not one of the three of us can really see too well. Yeah, right. So I got these maps mounted on my handlebars, but I really can't read them. So that was, but I never realized that until I started the thing, which was another funny thing. So I didn't do any practice stuff with the maps, but.
Well, didn't they have GPS back then?
Well, yeah, they did. But so again, like here I was just thinking you got to use the maps.
Right.
So I get out to San Francisco with my bike, and me and Steven said, I put my tires in the Pacific Ocean over the Golden Gate Bridge. We started heading east. Yeah. And Steven took over as a navigator. And I was wondering like how I got the maps on my handlebars, and he's got his iPhone mounted on his handlebars, and he's just, getting from point A to point B. None of that. He knew where to stop for coffee, where to stop for to eat.
I would know where every McDonald's is.
So I'm saying, Steve, like, how are you doing that? So he goes, oh, Dad, I'm using Google Maps. So I said, holy mackerel. I got to get myself a map for my iPhone. So I think it was day 4 of the trip. We were in Davis, California, and we went to a bike shop, and I got a mount for my phone. And so I did keep the maps with me just in case I had a malfunction with the phone. But really, the iPhone was the way to plan the trip. Correct.
That's right. It keeps it all in. So, all right. So my next question is, all right, you started your trip, and you've been asked a million questions already, but here comes another one that's a little more in depth. At what point during this trip did you have maybe an epiphany? Did something come to you that it was not only is this right, I was meant to do this, but did something ever come over you that maybe you were alone at a point, or you saw something?
So again, as I mentioned in the very beginning, it took 3 attempts. Okay. So I guess my first epiphany was when I was with Steven, and we were heading to Tahoe. So we're getting into the Rocky Mountains, and we had like a 5,500 foot climb that day.
Woo.
And again, my knees were with me now, maybe 5 or 6 months, and for bilateral knee replacement surgery, it usually takes a full year before your knees are completely healed.
Wow.
So my knees, although I wasn't having pain issues, I wasn't that fit either. No, we were on this climb. We had about 1,700 feet behind us, but about 3,800 feet ahead of us. And I realized I couldn't do it. So there's an epiphany where I'm like, well, wow.
Okay, but
So,
you said 3 chances.
So this is the first attempt. So I say to my son Steve, I defeated. There's no way I'm going to finish this climb. So we turn around, we go back to a hotel, Google a different route, and sure enough, there's a route from the Santa Monica Pier, which is the end of Route 66 or the beginning of Route 66.
I was about to say Route 66. Yeah.
So I said, you know what I'll do? I'll start from there, and I'll just start again, because there was no way I was going to do
Now,
this
how much time between attempt number 1 and attempt number 2?
So attempt number 1 lasted about 6 days. We go back. Stephen and I, the following day, bike to Sacramento. He takes a train from Sacramento to San Francisco, and I take a bus from Sacramento to LA.
Wow.
So I'm starting the second attempt 2 days after
2 days.
2 days after. And I start cycling solo from the Santa Monica Pier, heading east. And about 5 or 6 days into the second attempt, I get in an accident in Las Vegas, go over my handlebars, break my collarbone, and completely defeated again.
Holy!
And then in the interim, I got a fundraising page with the World Central Kitchen, and I got about my goal was to raise $25,000. I have about $17,000 or $18,000 in my fundraising page, and I've only biked 450 miles.
Right.
So I felt like a complete loser, and. When I broke the collarbone, the doctor's like, it's going to take 6 to 8 weeks to heal, and this is in the beginning of June.
Right.
So I got a bent wheel that won't go through the fork in the front of the bike, and I got to get that to a bike shop to ship it back home to New York. Have Brands fix the wheel. Mm-hmm. I fly home, and feeling pretty sorry for myself. However, there was a couple of things that I was looking forward to, even with my broken collarbone. One was 1 week with the Arthur C. Luft burn camp. That was coming up in July, so I was.
We know a little bit about that.
You guys know a little about the burn camp, and so I had about 6 weeks between coming home and the burn camp. So. So I got home, and as sorry as I was feeling for myself, I knew that I was looking forward to the burn camp, and I also wanted to go over to Poland and Ukraine to volunteer for the World Central Kitchen. I wanted to do some volunteer work for them. Right. So I did have a couple of trips or adventures lined up for the summer. In the interim, as I'm getting ready for the burn camp, my phone rings. I pick it up. It's a number I don't recognize, and I usually don't answer the phone, but I did this time. Mm-hmm. And they say, "Is this Joe Matthews?" And I go, "Yeah, the one and only. Who's this?" Mm-hmm. And it was John Thomas Ricketts, a retired battalion chief from the New York City Fire Department.
All right.
Asking number one, how does the shoulder feel? Still wasn't feeling too good at that point. It was still pretty painful. Right. Broken collarbone can be painful.
I've had one. Yeah.
But his second question was, would you like to do the bike trip again with me, heading from New York to California, which again is going to be a little bit more difficult because we're going against the wind.
Yeah,
and I asked John why he wanted to do that. He says, because I don't like to do things the easy way. So without much hesitation, maybe a minute or two, I said, you know what, John? I'm in. Sign me up. So I knew I had the 6 weeks of my collarbone to heal, and then I had 3 weeks of volunteer work to do in Poland, a week at the burn camp. John originally didn't want to leave until January, and he wanted to bike originally he wanted to do San Diego to Florida, which again would have been an easier route. But we decided to leave in September and go from New York to California. Wow. So we were the date we picked, we got together, we met at John's house, we went over a couple of logistics about what we were going to do, when we were going to leave, and we decided to leave on September 18th, which gave me the time to do my 1 week at the Arthur C. Luft burn camp and do my 3 weeks in Poland.
Wow. Just sitting here across the table from you, I just don't feel worthy. Not once, not twice, 3 times. Any other person would have said, I tried. I really did try, but that was it. You kept going. Then just think of this. Somebody else picked up on your vibe and said, let's do it together.
Correct.
And that's what we teach a lot of the kids at the burn camp too. It's partnership. It's togetherness. It's doing it together. Yes, you have your time alone, but together you can accomplish anything.
Correct.
And that's why I was when you probably went to the camp. I'm sure you found some inspiration from all those children.
I always say the true heroes at the camp. In case some of you people don't know, it's kind of financed by the Connecticut Burns Camp Foundation, which Dominic is the director of. Joel is one of the board members.
Sure is.
And it used to be the majority were retired New York City firemen who are the counselors. Now we're getting some campers who come back to be counselors, and there's nurses and other just like good people. It's all volunteer. Nobody gets paid a dime who volunteers at the burn camp. And as much as everybody says, oh, firefighters, you're our heroes, you're our heroes. I'm telling you, these kids at the burn camp are my heroes.
And the same with me. I've only been here 4 years, and they changed my life the first time I ever met them.
Yeah.
Been involved with them 6 years, but only 4 as the executive director. So
yeah, very extremely inspirational. Joel knows. You come out of volunteer for a weekday, you can't help but feel good.
Look, I've never seen such a smile on his face than when he goes to camp and gets to volunteer.
The firefighters are the heroes, and the kids are the heroes.
The kids are great. The kids really inspirational.
Well, let me ask Joel a question. Actually, when did you first meet Joe? How did that come about?
We had both volunteered at the camp for about 2 years, just scattered years.
Okay.
And eventually we were assigned to the same location to help out, which was the waterfront.
Great.
So we were both
correct
former swimmers.
Yeah, we're both former swimmers, and they need somebody at the waterfront just to make sure nobody drowns or hurts themselves.
That's a good thing.
That's where me and Joel come in. But Joel, he paid his dues the hard way. He actually lived and slept with the campers a couple of years. I was too old to do that when they first signed me up for the camp, so they put me right at the waterfront. They gave me an easy job right off the bat. I don't know why. Maybe I was just lucky.
Well, maybe because you cycled across the country.
No, that was before.
Break.
That was before. So I was told that this year was my 10th year. I know I missed 2. Well, we all missed the year. The camp was shut down the year of COVID. That was 2021.
Right.
Yeah, so was I biking? I know I biked 2022 with other years. Anyway, so I missed that year, and I missed 2 other years to personal reasons. So I think my first year was 2013. Do you remember your first year, Joel?
2015.
Yeah, so Joel was, and I think that might have been one of the years I missed. So that's why.
That's right.
We met maybe in 2017.
Yeah, I was here 6 years ago. Whatever that was, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, whatever that one is over there. I was a guest. Bob Kepchar. I had met my wife. She moved me up here from New Jersey, and Bob Kepchar heard I was a singer and a volunteer firefighter and EMS and all that other stuff, and he said, I have a place for you. And it changed my life.
And Bob Kepchar is another one of the board members.
Board member. And of course, Steve Lupinacci, who is our camp director, been a part of it for well over 30 years.
Yeah, Steve is the guy that interviewed me over the phone for the position.
Oh, all right.
I think the interview lasted about 10 seconds. He said you'll be fine here, Joe, and kind of the rest is it. I got to give a shout out to Billy Carlson, also a good friend of mine who did 25 years at the camp.
God bless.
And we met as New York City firemen, and when he told me about the camp, I wanted to get involved. So that's kind of how it all happened. And once you're in, it's like a spider web. You can't get out. You can't get out. Right? It's really is a special camp.
So okay, you bike across the country. Now
Correct.
Here comes a question you've been asked. I gotta at least repeat one question that you always ask. What state was your favorite to go through that gave you that extra, I'm doing this? You know, what state?
That is a good question, Dom. And you know what? That's actually, you might be the first person to ask me that.
Look at that. See?
But anyway, we had this one day in Texas. We were going, I believe it was to Amarillo. We had a 65-mile day ahead of us, and it was a steady, like...
There's a song in that one.
20 to 25-mile-an-hour headwind in front of it. It was raining, and I just had like a really tough day. I was starting to have like insomnia and anxiety issues, which I never, I was in New York City fireman, and I've been in a couple of crazy situations. 9/11 probably being the most dramatic, but I never had anxiety or insomnia before, and we had this tough day going into Amarillo, and after that I was having anxiety issues, kind of from there on to California.
Right. Okay.
But we got to New Mexico, and we had a 79-mile day, and I hadn't slept well the night before, and I'm like, oh man, I was ready to pack in it a couple of times, maybe 4 or 5 times. I was going to say, you know what, I just can't.
So
do
you
it.
were ready to do it?
Yeah, I was ready to pack it in, and I just said, you know what, I'll get on my bike and I'll go one pedal at a time.
Okay.
And I tell you, it was one of there was like 3 days I can remember that were really good days, and they were all around the 80-mile mark days. And this one was just another one where I had such a great day when I finished it. How can I possibly
and what
not
state was that?
finish it? That was in New Mexico.
That was in New Mexico.
New Mexico,
okay.
yeah.
All right,
yeah,
there's
yeah.
our winner.
Yeah.
It's New Mexico.
I was never, if you've never been to New Mexico, I'm telling you, what a beautiful state. New Mexico, Arizona, those were probably my 2 favorite as far as geographical things.
Nice.
I mean, other states, Tennessee barbecue. You can't beat that,
Now, what about, did you ever go through Jersey? Did you ever go through my state?
Of course we went through Jersey.
You went through my Jersey, yeah. All right.
New York,
what
New
exit?
Jersey. We crossed over the Washington, Delaware.
Okay.
Where Washington,
Crossed the Delaware. Yeah,
correct.
sure.
We went over the bridge there.
All right, very nice.
Yeah, so we went through Jersey, Pennsylvania. We went to Gettysburg.
Nice.
I tell you, a lot of Civil War history we rode through, which was
I just took my
I
just took my vacation. We went to West Virginia, and now I know why John Denver said "almost heaven," West Virginia.
Yes.
Because where we stayed was on top of a mountain, on top of a peak, on top of another mountain, on top of another mountain. My car barely got to the log cabin.
I barely got to the top of that too. I remember going over those mountains.
That's a car. I don't know how you did it.
On a bike. So me and Ricketts, we were hugging the West Virginia border for a while along like the Blue Ridge Mountains. And, yeah, and the Shenandoah Valley.
Go near the river.
So now you got me thinking, Tom. I was thinking that New Mexico and Arizona, but I got to admit, Virginia, West Virginia were beautiful states.
Yeah, I triggered something there.
Yeah,
all right.
Yeah.
Joe, this caused that you did in the book. Here comes another difficult question. Would you ever do it again?
No.
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 That wasn't even
that was a one. Yeah, I know John Ricketts would be sorry to hear that because he wants to do it in his 70s. But I mean, it was again one of those things where it was 90 days. It took us 90 days to the day. We left September 18th, 2022, and we finished on December 18th, 2022.
Nice.
Yeah.
Well, I have a question for you. So, okay, I understand your point that nope, it was one time, we did it. Took me 3 tries, you did it. But here's something I wonder if you would ever consider. Do it again, but virtually. And you can now literally do this kind of thing in a studio. It's sort of like Peloton.
Right.
And literally you can ride across the country legitimately without leaving the studio.
Yeah, that's not for me.
Not for you.
It's probably a great one to do, but it's not
I just
for me.
wanted to ask to see what it is.
Yeah.
Joe, I know you are for us at the Connecticut Burns Care Foundation and all these other wonderful organizations that you do. What, for us at the CBCF, what is the most important thing at camp you get out of it? What's the most important thing you get out of camp? What for you, Joe? What do you bring back?
I always say get more out of it than I put into it because
we all do.
it's it's just unbelievable the obstacles that these kids have to overcome every day of their lives, and I'm just completely humbled by them. And if I'm ever feeling bad about myself, got to smack myself upside the head.
Yeah, me too. I agree with you 100%.
I mean, really, they're so inspirational, and
but so are you.
oh,
You know, Joe, allow me to say that this book is a testimony unto what every single child that goes through this camp really needs to read this book. Every person who will read this will understand what selflessness is about. You did this for others. You had, look, there are a lot of great people that have done a lot of great things for a lot of great charities. But do you know what I say is most different about our charity than any other? You see, other people like yourself raise money to get rid of whatever you're raising money for. But we can't eradicate burns and we can't get rid of them. They're always going to happen, so we can never close our doors. About 200,000 children a year are burned. And you turned around and literally went across country to do for others who could not do for themselves. That just being in your presence, I am honored, I am thrilled, and we are going to do everything in our power to push forward this wonderful, wonderful book. And Cycling for a Cause, a cross-country adventure by Joe Matthews, retired New York firefighter. But you're a great human being on top of it. A lot of people will get lost in the fact that you did this for others, that you have the spirit, the constitution, the heart. But a lot of people will be even further thrilled when they just get to meet you, because it's you yourself as a human being that's pleasure to be around. It's you that we love to be around. Yes, this is all great, and you did a great job for a lot of people. But if the human being isn't behind it, then this is kind of hollow. You are more than what anybody could ever expect. And if you haven't met this man, I need you to take a second, and I want you to give what locations can they find this book? Where can they find you? What would you like to give them to reach out to you to get this special book?
okay. So the book is available on Amazon, and again, Tom, do you mind if I open it
Yeah,
up?
of course not. No.
Okay, it's Cycling for a Cause, a cross-country adventure by Joe Matthews. So it is available on Amazon. And again, I appreciate the pat on the back, Don. But I always say, like, even small, you don't have to bicycle across the country to do any philanthropy. It can be as simple as helping somebody out. You know, you
Even writing a letter, Joe.
Exactly.
Even writing a letter.
Whatever it is. It doesn't have to be a big adventure. Little things add up. Little drops in the bucket add up to make the world a better place. So,
Well, let me tell you what we're going to do.
go ahead.
Not only are we doing this video podcast for you today to get the word out about this book, but we are going to add it to our website, where people can go to our website, see this book, buy the book for you from Amazon to get it out to everybody, because it's a story of what we promote: strength, constitution, fortitude, giving. That's everything you are. So we're going to promote that, I guarantee you.
Thank you, Dominic.
And this won't be the last time. Also, I'm going to be working with Joe, and we're going to help him promote this book and himself, and to really get this word out, because it needs to. I truly believe in that. And I believe that we have got a little thing we need to do together to really start promoting you and getting it out there and doing what we need to do. Joel, I can't thank you enough for hosting our guest while we're waiting to get here.
Yeah, Joel, I got to give a quick shout out to Joel Pleman. He is the one that hooked me up with Dominic to do this podcast, and Joel's become quite a good friend of mine.
Oh, absolutely.
Well, that was an easy decision. I had the great fortune to read the book already. I couldn't wait to get a copy of it, and highly recommend it to anybody who wants some insight on the life of a firefighter from New York, or anybody that's interested in a cycling adventure. Joe has a great blend of expressing his passion for his organizations that he's supporting, and adding some very entertaining and comical anecdotes here or there. You
True.
learn that if you're cycling across Arizona and you have to find the next road, you look for the tree that's down the 10 miles down the road.
Well, this has been great, Joe. I can't thank you enough for coming in today, spending your time to come all at this. I know this is a hike for you, but I appreciate it more than you know. And we're going to work together. This is not the last time that you're going to be sitting in that chair, and we're going to be promoting this. But also, we have our gala, October 26th, coming up. You better believe we're going to have a table just for you.
Awesome.
For this book, because again, we do not mind promoting things that actually give our kids something to really look up to, and you're one of them people. And again, we really appreciate it. So listen, I'm Dominic Mantuano, the Executive Director of the Connecticut Burns Care Foundation. Joe, again, thank you very much for being one of our guests and for promoting this book. Again, Cycling for a Cause, a cross-country adventure by Joe Matthews, retired New York firefighter hero. And we really look forward to seeing you on our next podcast. And again, thank you very much.
Thank you, Dom. My pleasure.